I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda of July 16th, 2012, regular meeting as presented. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the approval of the consent agenda items.
I move to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have public participation. Okay. We'll move on to the report of our new superintendent, Mrs. Shelley Holmes.
Jokers still for our purposes, I'm just gonna stay with that, it's a
Oh,
little
okay.
easier.
We'll do that.
Oldham is my husband's name, yeah, so. Okay, we do have some notes of appreciation, we'll draw your attention to those. And do want to point out that our next board meeting, our next regular board meeting will be just the August the 20th, 2012, and just prior to that will be the school tax rate hearing, where we will set our local tax rate for the upcoming year, and that's at, the board meeting's at 7. We'll kick the hearing off right at 7, and the board meeting will immediately follow. So the hearing will not be prior to 7 o'clock, it'll just be at 7 with the board meeting immediately following that. Construction update. Just had a meeting with our architect today, mainly concerning our window replacement project, and going very, very well. I don't know if you've driven around up here in the back at all, but right on the corner of the middle school as you come down Dragon Drive, which is, by the way, the official name of that road now. As soon as we can get a sign up, we will. Got to get one ordered and all that good stuff. But the windows there on the corner of the middle school have been replaced, and all down the side of the annex there, man, they just look really sharp. And the inside is pretty well finished. All that remains, they'll probably finish up by the end of the day tomorrow with the entire project. There's a little bit of touch-up painting that needs to be done yet in a couple of the classrooms. Really basically down at the high school in the wood shop area and the fax area and the industrial tech classroom. Those have a little bit of the beam, the iron beam that goes across the top. I'm sure that's not the correct architectural term. I apologize, I'm just telling you what it is. It's kind of orange right now, it needs to be painted white. So we'll get that taken care of, and that should be done by the end of the day tomorrow, but boy, they look really sharp. And the maintenance crew is currently getting in there, putting the blinds back up. They are having to trim the blinds about 2 feet off the bottom, but they sit very nicely back in the windows and in the sill so that they're not out against the floor now, and I think the whole thing will be easier. The main thing that'll be easier is when the teachers go to draw the blind. You know, they have that little clear rod that they push with. And with those blinds before were so long and heavy that it was hard to open, and sometimes it messed up the sliding mechanism because there was so much drag against it. So it ought to open a lot easier as they are now. So they look really, really good, and I'm real pleased with the way it all came out. A couple other little things that are being worked on. They completely finished the dividing wall between the high school French room and social studies room. It had the curtain before. Looks really sharp in there. Got it all painted. Looks really, really good. We are waiting on the door that will create the entryway from the nurse's office to the expanded part, more private part of the nurse's office. We've knocked a hole and are waiting on doors to finish that project up. They were supposed to be in last week. We called them. They say, no, they'll be here this week for sure. you know how that goes. But anyway, housekeeping is really making good headway, getting the rooms cleaned and put back together. So we look to be ready to go when it's time to go. So that's really, really good. Everything's looking great. The couple of little issues that we've been attending to with the auditorium are moving forward. We've contacted Rischerity Flooring because we've had some issues with the carpeting. The glue hasn't adhered as well as we wanted, so they've been back and they've taken care of that. They've put some seals at the bottom of some of the doors between the band room and the auditorium, and so we're working on those little things. And so I think everything is pretty well getting to ship shape. One more month ought to really get us there. So I believe that's all I have.
Okay. Next, we have unfinished business, the board policy book update.
Okay, if you look at item 6A, that's the rather hefty section of your board packet, and you see the list of board policies that have been changed in some way. Most of them have to do with some legal, either a statute or a court case that has set a precedent that has caused board policies to need to be changed. Other than that, there's very, very little that was requiring a change, actually. I can go through these one by one. I know you've all read them, because there is, for those who don't know, MSBA, Missouri School Board Association, is our authority where school board policy is concerned, and they send us every year an annual update, and with that update comes an explanation sheet of why the policy needs to be changed, and the new wording that should be included in your policy manual. So the school board members have gotten that in advance, and they've had an opportunity to read through all of that. So that way, I know for some of you all it just looks like, oh wow, they made a bunch of changes, nobody said anything about it, but they have had opportunity to read a very detailed explanation about why. If there is one that you wish to discuss, please let me know. I'd be glad to talk about
I
it.
just want to comment on the eligibility report for the A+.
Yes.
Which I know I don't have any control over. When I make a comment, I don't see why. Beginning with the high school senior class of 2015, achieve a score of proficient or advanced on the official Algebra 1 intercourse exam or prior to receiving A+2 addition reimbursement. I don't have any problem with the others. The 12 credit hours is equivalent to a 2.5 GPA. I just have a problem with why did you pick out Algebra 1?
I think because so many of the students, not particularly our students, just across the state, so many of the students that come to junior colleges have to start out with a remedial mathematics course of some kind. And A+ is a fantastic scholarship, and we want to preserve as much of that money as possible to pay for the courses that the students actually need to earn a degree. And so when you're having to pay for a course that you're not actually getting credit for, that causes a problem. There's also a time limitation on how long it takes them to get their things. Mr. Haney, would you kind of speak to that just a little bit?
And one of the drafts I initially had it as Algebra 2 on the EOC, and we went nuts on that one because, to expect every student to take Algebra 2 and to be proficient on the EOC, I mean, the 9 through 12 principals across state went nuts, and I think what the Algebra 1 ultimately became was sort of a happy compromise. They wanted a standard for remediation, as Ms. Joker spoke upon, and they knew they couldn't get Algebra 2, so they went with the Algebra 1. And we're still actually trying to hash out when they don't make proficient, we're allowed to test them again. How will that work with our AYP scores and things like that? So it's still not totally south, but it is a standard that is in there. Our students have to achieve it, so it is what it is.
Talk about the English EOCs?
What?
Was there any talk about the English EOCs?
No, because I think it
That
goes
really hasn't been
solely
the problem.
to the remediation, the intermediate algebra.
So
and the
many of them
intermediate
test
algebra.
into the remediation mathematics courses, and their English skills typically are somewhat better.
Then we have more kids taking English during the summer than we have algebra, right?
No,
No, not this year.
not
No,
at
sir.
all. In fact, the last several years, Algebra 1
Yeah.
has been,
Been one? Okay.
3-1, 4-1.
yeah, oh yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I rest my case, my comment.
Okay. No, it is a good question, why just that one
Yeah.
particular one, but I
I
think,
understand that the GPA is 2.5 and the 12 credit hours.
well, they can get a 2.5 GPA and still not be real peachy in mathematics, they that's an overall average rather than a skill in a particular area. And I think that's the thing that was causing a lot of kids problems, is they get there and they can't do math. Yeah. So, any other questions or comments on those? Anybody? Okay. Yes?
We have a sheet here that says, move to schedule the August regular board meeting of education fee for August 20 and 2011. Do we have to vote on that or make a motion?
I think that was.
That's part of the consent.
No, it's part of the report of the superintendent.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that might have been
I think that has to be, that's got to be an error, because I don't think there's a need for that. We do that in our last motion, isn't that correct? We do. So, this 5B, I believe you can pull out of there. Unless you all, I mean, it won't hurt anything to make a motion, if y'all want to go ahead.
I don't know who's there.
It won't hurt a thing, and that way we will be very,
We'll be covered.
we'll be covered that we are going to have that tax hearing, so.
I move to schedule the August regular board meeting for Board of Education for August 20 and 2011 with the tax rate meeting to be held prior to regular board meeting.
I seen that in there, but I just assumed that you talked about it, that was the way.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
well, we'll just make sure this way that
Just make it legal.
we're all on that, yeah.
I mark in it on there.
Yeah, okay, I have a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Okay, so we're more than covered. Now we need to see about those board policies. 6A.
Okay,
I move to approve the proposed policy procedure changes and updates as presented.
I'll second it.
It's down at the very bottom of the page marked 6A.
First one with all that list. Big old list. So 6A.
okay. Who motion, who made the motion? Okay, you second.
Charlie.
Okay, a motion and a second, all in favor, by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is new business, and first is food service bids.
We had actually only 2 bids. One food service bid, which was the bread. The milk, we're actually just validating that we are going to continue the 3rd year of a 3-year contract with the milk parlor. The bids that you see on the back of the sheet marked 7A are the bids for bread. And I'm recommending that we stay with the Flowers Baking Company. There's been no complaint, and their pricing overall is best for the things that we use most.
So would they entertain a 3-year bid, or should we just ask for 1-year bid, or would
They don't, they're not interested in, you can see NA means that they didn't send a bid. Nobody's interested in more than, in locking themselves in for more than a year, especially with the drought
Yeah.
choking the wheat crop, so, you know, who knows what bread prices will be in the year.
Move to accept the following bids for the 2012-2013 school year.
A motion and a second, all in favor, by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next is the pest control bids.
This was the other bid that we let, and you can see the ones that we sent the bid, the request for proposal to, and we only had 3 of them respond to us. Presto X, Cameraman's, and Orchid and Pest and Termite. Cameraman's is who we've been with for quite some time, and you can see obviously that they are by far the cheapest, and they do a good job. They are here regularly and take care of what we need in all the buildings. So that is my recommendation.
Is it the same price as last year?
I believe so, actually, yeah.
And that includes the whole campus?
That includes every building, yes.
Pretty cheap.
Very good.
Move to accept the following bids for the 2012-13 school year for pest cameraman's termite pest 1-year bid. Thanks.
Okay, motion and a second, all in favor, by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next is our refuse bids.
This is our trash service, and again, we are just validating that we will continue with the 2nd year of a 3-year contract that we had already started last year with Republic.
motion and a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Next is the food service report for 2011-2012.
Okay, several things I want to point out on the food service report. If you look at the back of the page marked 7D, that's our actual balance sheet on food service. And this is for our regular breakfast and lunch is on this page. And if you look under the 2011-2012 column to the third grouping there, you'll see expenses minus receipts. We ran in the red, not terribly, $5,527. That's not completely unusual for us. We tend to bounce around in the close to break-even zone, except for last year. You'll notice that last year we were quite heavily in the red, but that was because of new equipment purchases here in town and out at Bloomsdale. If you'll recall, we put in some new hot water heaters, those that are tankless, more efficient, and so that's why the last year's looks so out of line. Typically, we're in that plus or minus $5,000 on the cafeteria. If you look a little bit further down and notice the paid student lunch, the reduced student lunch, and free student lunch, you'll see that our paid lunches, fully paid, were down about almost 20,000, but our reduced was up a little bit, and our free meals were down a little bit. Most of that has to do with, if you bump on down there a little bit further, you see ABA, K-12, that's our average daily attendance. Our enrollment has dropped off a little bit, and so, of course, we're not going to serve as many meals. There's not as many kids here. So all of that kind of stands to reason. Down at the very bottom, if you want to look at a real bottom line, if you factor in our inventory, which we wound up with about $11,000 to the good on inventory, if you factor all that in with our gains and losses, et cetera, we actually, counting our inventory, we're at $5,800 to the good. So we like for our cafeteria to operate on a break-even basis. We're really not about making a profit on our cafeteria in any way. We just want it to pay for itself. Actually, you can see here that none of the, while equipment and everything else is in here, and supplies and things like that, electricity and other utilities are not in here. The school subsidizes that. There's no way we could be on a break-even basis if we factored in utilities. So we definitely always subsidize that in both buildings. If you look at the next pages, what you see there is snacks, food report. That's our after-school program. We feed a snack to the students who stay for Dragon's Den on a daily basis. You can see that we ended up with a little bit of a positive balance there. And then down at the bottom, our summer school report, we were, if you look at expenses over receipts there, you can see that we're almost $2,000 in the hole there. So these are, taken together, this is pretty much a break-even operation. The last thing I want to talk about on food services on the very next page where it says 2012-2013 survey of other districts and meal prices. This just gives you a point of reference. And if you'll remember, last year there was, effective the July 1 school year, July 1, 2011 school year, schools are required to charge students for paid meals at a price that is on average equal to the difference between the free meal reimbursement and the paid meal reimbursement. In other words, we can't let the free government subsidy for free meals subsidize too much of our paid meals. In other words, the fully paid students have to shoulder their fair share of the cost. All right. So we are supposed to be charging, let's see, $2.51 per lunch and $1.53 per breakfast. If you look in under student, you see where it says breakfast and lunch, local price needs to be. That's our legal requirement. Now, what they have told us is that we must show that we are moving toward that we are gradually gaining ground toward getting where we need to be with that. So you can see where everybody's been. Last year, we were at $2.20 at the elementary and $2.30 at the high school. We're not quite where we need to be. You can see that we are, there are some, that North St. Francis County was at $2.25 and $2.50. Hillsborough at $1.85 and $2.10, and some others, Sullivan, St. Clair, Farmington's $1.65 and $1.90. Last year when we all talked about this, you all seemed to feel like it was better to make a gradual approach to that requirement rather than staying really, really low, and then when you get up to the year you have to make the jump, suddenly you got a 50-cent jump. And so last year we recommended 10 cents increase on our lunch prices. In that same thought pattern of gradually moving to where we're supposed to be, I have recommended 10 cents on the lunch prices again this year. So that's what's on that very first page there.
So all these other schools gotta come up to par?
Yes. And you can see that there are several of them who are planning to make, almost all of them are planning to make increases. Some of them have already decided how much they're going to increase, like some of them are increasing, 2 of them at a quarter. Was that Kingston and Bismarck are both going to go up a quarter, which is kind of a large jump. Farmington plans to go up a dime. Sullivan plans to go up a dime. Almost all of them are going to go up. In fact, having talked to the superintendents of some of these with the question mark, they're all saying, yeah, they're going to go up at least 10 cents. So some of them said more than that probably.
Does milk and juice stay the same?
Yes, milk and juice will stay the same for now.
Is there a time frame that you have to go to that?
You know what, they have it, it really was supposed to be by July 1st, 2011. But as long as we can show that we are making gradual progress toward that, then they're not going to hammer us.
Somebody's supposed to-
Yeah, so in other words, we're out of compliance.
Yes, over the law, like,
Why is it so low?
Well, they just are.
So when if they, they're, when they do, they're gonna have to go up 50.
They're gonna have to make a big
75
jump,
cents.
and we've talked about that at the superintendent's meetings, and they know that that's why almost all of them are going to do increases, and some of them larger than others, they just weren't sure yet how much. So in other words, we're out of compliance right now, but we have to show that we are moving in the right direction.
We're not doing this to make money, we have to do
No,
this.
there's a law that was actually in effect July 1st, 2011, that says we're supposed to be at $2.51, and we're not there yet, so we're recommending that we continue to make that approach.
move to approve the following food service prices for the 2012-2013 school year.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I wanted to stop just a second there. Our prices will be for breakfast at the elementary. Full pay will be $1.20, and high school, middle school will also be $1.20 for breakfast. For lunch, full pay will be $2.30 at the elementary, and at the high school and middle school will be $2.40 a day.
Any other questions? Okay, Mr. McDaniel?
I move that the Board of Education hold a closed meeting with a closed record, a closed vote following the regular open meeting on August 20th, 2012, to be held in the R.W. Thomas Library, 715 Washington Street, St. James, Missouri, for the purpose of discussing and voting upon the following items of business: legal action, causes of action or litigation, lease, purchase, or sale of real estate, hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting particular employees, scholastic probation, expulsion, or graduation of identifiable individuals, testing and examination materials, preparation for negotiation with employee groups, specifications for competitive bidding until approved or published, sealed bids and related documents until the bids are open, sealed proposals and related documents until all proposals are rejected, writing documents related to a negotiated contract until a contract is executed, individually identifiable personnel records, performance ratings, or records pertaining to employees or applicants for employment, records protected from disclosure by law, records relating to municipal hotlines established for the reporting of abuse and wrongdoing, confidential or privileged communications with an auditor, existing or proposed security systems and structural plans of district property. Records identifying would allow unauthorized access to or unlawful disruption of configuration of components of the operation of a computer system, computer network, or telecommunications network. Credit card numbers, personal identification numbers, digital certificates, physical and virtual keys, access codes or authorization codes that are used to protect electronic transactions. Further move that notice of this meeting and tentative agenda be posted and